Chapter 22, The actress will arrive soon. Why did Ye Shuang's grandmother ask her for help?
Whether Ye Shuang wanted to or not, she could not prevent the inevitable. At least she was luckier than Mother Ye and Father Ye in the sense that on the morning of the visit, she had a valid reason for not being at home. Therefore, when she left home the next day, Ye Shuang was the target of the envious and deplorable look of her entire family. "Brother, how can you live with yourself after leaving us to fend for yourself?" Little brother Ye growled. As the only son of the Ye family after Ye Shuang left, he had no valid reason to escape this tragedy, otherwise with his personality, he would have disappeared faster than Ye Shuang. "I'm your sister, not your brother." Ye Shuang lightly patted little brother Ye's head and helplessly uttered, "Anyway, I'm afraid it will cause too much excitement if I stay, especially considering our grandmother's age." Well, Ye Shuang was lying. The real reason was that she was afraid that Grandma Yi was too passionate and welcoming. Different from other elders, Grandma Yi had a rather modern mindset, which was another way of saying that the woman had no filter. Ye Shuang remembered an unfortunate incident in high school when she was tricked by her grandmother during Chinese New Year. Her genial grandmother had sneeringly asked her, "Shuang heir, have you found a boyfriend yet?" Seriously, why would a grandmother ask something like that to such a young girl? Didn't the older generation always assume that the children of the family are always as pure as a blank sheet of paper when it comes to matters of relationships and sex? Anyway, Ye Shuang felt like she couldn't understand the inner workings of her precious grandmother's mind. She was probably too young or something. However, she knew that if she had stayed, there was a high probability that Grandma Yi would reach out to her and ask with a smile, "Son, have you already reached second base with our Shuang heir?" Ye Shuang shivered just imagining this scene. After bidding farewell to his family, Ye Shuang flagged down a cab to head to Fang Mo's company. Today was not the day of the shoot, she was just there to get used to the location and prepare the makeup. This preparatory work would take a lot of time because the image presented is all that matters in a commercial. She would have to try on different outfits if we wanted to have different scenes. Also, celebrities often have small flaws on their face or body that they don't want you to know about and that need to be corrected during this pre-shoot period. Therefore, choosing outfits and makeup was an important and central part of the preparation work for the video shoot. Alas, none of this would have been applicable to Ye Shuang. Fang Mo nodded in satisfaction at the sound of the collective sigh when Ye Shuang walked through the door in a black tracksuit. His heart filled with something resembling pride. This was a friend he had approved of, so naturally, he would be the center of attention wherever he went. Those who hadn't seen Ye Shuang on the day she went to the company to sign the contract had initially thought that their big boss was a bit reckless in using a completely unknown debutante instead of celebrities. However, after seeing Ye Shuang in person, they realized that these celebrities may have won against Ye Shuang in terms of celebrity, but they had lost to Ye Shuang on another level, something called face. The loss was so devastating that their fame would have meant nothing. "Is this our new spokesperson?" A manager, whom Ye Shuang had seen before at the huge company meeting giving a speech, stood up with a glow on his face. "It's perfect, our advertisement this time will definitely cause huge shockwaves." Ye Shuang shook the hand extended by the director and turned to look at Fang Mo, confusion in his eyes. The latter coughed and made the introduction and correction. "Mr. Yi here will only be participating in one of our commercials, he's not really our spokesperson. He is not from the entertainment business, he is just doing this as a personal favor." After this statement, the people in the room who were eager to tear up the contract before Ye Shuang arrived all sighed with regret. "So, what field is Mr. Yi from? If it doesn't affect his work, in fact, he should be perfectly capable of shooting more commercials for us. Besides, he may consider lending his talent for posters and such." "Is your company planning to create posters too?" The absurdity of their suggestion made Ye Shuang want to roll her eyes. After all, she had been a part of this company before, and in case readers forgot, Fang Mo's company was a real estate-focused company. Why would you need posters to sell houses, or do you also sell makeup? The people in the room could only laugh awkwardly. Honestly, the poster was a sudden decision, but since they had such a good model, it would be a waste if they didn't use it to its fullest capacity. Fang Mo immediately jumped in to smooth things over. Ignore the poster, I'm sure they're just joking around. Besides. He suddenly turned to Ye Shuang and continued in a tone of guilt and shame, the actress you're going to team up with should be here soon, maybe you should go try on the outfits now. Ye Shuang obediently followed the stylist into the fitting room. After getting changed, Ye Shuang still didn't understand why Fang Mo had that expression on her face. However, after the stylist helped her with her hair and the so-called actress arrived on the scene, Ye Shuang understood everything instantly. The first thing Fang Fei saw when she walked through the door was Ye Shuang's perfect face, which didn't need any makeup to highlight her beauty. With a small layer in his hair and a pair of simple white t-shirts and black pants, he looked like a vision of a past where everything was inhumanly beautiful. Sitting there, he seemed to drain the colors from his surroundings, they seemed to pale in comparison to his artificial beauty. Fang Fei's face instantly blushed, and after forcing herself to turn away, she breathed out, "Not bad." Fang Mo looked at this situation with a complicated feeling in his eyes. He felt inexplicable guilt towards Ye Shuang, even though he knew Ye Shuang was already in a relationship. This was one of the few times his little sister had asked him for help. So what other choice did he have? After being taken by surprise for a few seconds, Ye Shuang suddenly understood.
Chapter 23, Feeding the Pack of Hungry Eyes. Why did Fang Fei's method of getting the camera to follow him?
At that moment, Ye Shuang felt strongly disappointed in a certain person. He had already seen how similar she and her sister were to a cat and a dog the last time they were forced to stay in the same room, but he was purposely making them do it again. Ye Shuang suddenly felt a headache coming on as she could foresee the many troubles that awaited her in the future. Fortunately, the shooting would be over in a day. At the same time, Fang Mo was inwardly relieved, carrying the same thought. Fang Mo was naturally familiar with his own sister's social awkwardness, and it was because he knew her that he did not approve of Fang Fei's method of trying to get Ye Shuang's attention. If the other person was an honest and patient man, then Fang Fei's method wouldn't have been so out of place, but if the other party didn't have masochistic tendencies, especially someone superior like Ye Shuang who didn't have to accommodate anyone, it would be extremely difficult for him to discover the affection and interest hidden under Fang Fei's aggressive attitude. And for the sake of argument, let's say Ye Shuang really understood what Fang Fei was getting at, why should he have to endure Fang Fei's immature attitude? He had much better choices in the world. Fang Mo had put himself in Ye Shuang's shoes to predict their future. In any case, if it were him, he wouldn't have accepted a woman who would do anything to cause him trouble just because it was her way of showing affection towards him. A man's face is more important than the feeling of dignity, it also includes the confidence that others have in him. If a man constantly shits himself in front of his peers, which gives him a poor image, it will be very difficult for him to expand his social circle. After all, a successful person's name is more than something printed on a card. It also includes his reputation, image, and so on. When he saw Ye Shuang turn towards him with censure in his eyes, Fang Mo coughed awkwardly as his speculation was confirmed. He walked over to Ye Shuang to explain in a low voice, Fei suddenly told me that she wants to become an actress, but I'm sure it will pass like many of her other interests, so please just accommodate her for this time. Ye Shuang looked at Fang Mo in disbelief. But since she was only a hired actress, Ye Shuang couldn't just get up and leave. After all, Fang Mo didn't even need to come and explain the situation to her. If he really wanted to help his sister torture her, there was nothing she could do. He was the boss. So at least Fang Mo wasn't as cruel as she thought. Reluctant to be caught in his own sister's mating ritual, Fang Mo hurriedly left after apologizing to Ye Shuang several times. So Ye Shuang had no choice but to wait patiently for her scene partner to change and finish her makeup. Mr. Yi can walk around the house as he pleases, pretend it's your house, the camera will follow you, and we may be able to get some usable shots. The director saw that Ye Shuang was bored enough to take out his phone to read, so he walked over to give some basic tasks. Of course, this wasn't how a video shoot was supposed to go. Even a commercial had its own script and specific shots. However, Ye Shuang was such a good model that even if he leaned against a wall, it made for a poster-worthy picture. Even the film crew, who had filmed many celebrities before, was impressed by his natural charm while waiting for Fang Fei to get ready. That's why the director had come up with such a strange idea. After all, the commercial was supposed to focus on a new life in a new house. Besides, he felt that it would be such a waste not to use such a wonderful talent. Even if the material didn't fit the ideal of the ad, they could edit it to put it on their website for promotional purposes. With this first male role, they would get many clicks. After hearing Fang Fei say that this might be the first and last time Ye Shuang would agree to be in front of the camera, the director knew he had to take this opportunity to record as much as possible. Too few scenes of the female lead. No matter. As long as he provided enough material, the rest was the editor's and director's problem. Ye Shuang looked away from the web novel she was reading. She asked rather vaguely, "Can we use all this furniture?" Ye Shuang glanced at the sofa, the television, the bar counter. If she damaged any of them, she would have to sell her kidney to pay for the repairs. "Yes, feel free to use all the furniture." The manager solved Ye Shuang's concern in one sentence. The company's boss plans to move into this place after the rest of the renovation is done, so just pretend you're a guest at a friend's house. Ye Shuang sighed in relief. "Thank you for telling me that." Then, she planted her ass on the nearest sofa. She stretched her long legs forward and leaned back lazily. As she stretched, Ye Shuang's shirt lifted slightly to reveal a flat lower abdomen, which made the female workers who were quietly watching her blush in unison. Even Fang Fei, who was sitting on the makeup chair at the other end of the room, kept glancing at Ye Shuang furtively through the mirror. Ye Shuang, on the other hand, did not notice the pack of hungry eyes on her. She had left home early in the morning to rush to the company. After getting the information from the receptionist, she had rushed from the business to this new building that Fang Mo's company had just finished. Since she was afraid of dirtying the furniture, she had been standing since she arrived. Even though her physical body had already been optimized to no longer feel tired, mentally speaking, she was still quite tired.
Chapter 24, The Golden Number. How do you explain your stance and position in 3D?
While people were busy sneaking peeks at Ye Shuang, Fang Fei's makeup was finally finished. She had opted for a nude look, wore a makeup that seemed to have no makeup, aiming for a natural look. However, since not everyone was like Ye Shuang, who didn't have a bad angle and could be photographed after just layering the hair, the nude look had to cover Fang Fei's flaws but at the same time, not be too obvious. Therefore, the technical difficulty was rather high. Anyway, after Ye Shuang saw the finished product, which was no less magical than the plastic surgery, she was very impressed with the makeup artist. The remaining time was simply not enough for an official shoot. From what Fang Fei said, this first day was mainly for the two lead actors to get to know each other. It was difficult to determine how much personal interest was inherent in this order. In any case, the arrangement was not so out of place, since it was not uncommon for new models to have a break-in period. Since the paying boss wasn't afraid of wasting time, why would others bother? However, the reality was harder than expected. The break-in period between Fang Fei and Ye Shuang was harrowing. The man, who seemed unattainably beautiful, was surprisingly down to earth, but the girl, on the other hand. Even the director could understand why the boss had deliberately set aside a day for them to get to know each other. In a few words, the girl had directly and indirectly snubbed the handsome man. Seeing the man being treated so badly by his co-star, the surrounding female workers were about to form a crowd to crucify the female model. Since it was impossible to leave them to fend for themselves, the manager had to intervene. How about a screen test? This isn't the official shoot, we're just going to see how things go for you two on camera. Of course, the director was aware of what was going on. How could he not? After all, his observation skills had been trained to a very high level through this job. Even though Fang Yimou hadn't said anything to him, the way Fang Fei kept glancing at Ye Shuang while Ye Shuang wasn't paying attention had given the director all the information he needed. The director's suggestion made everyone sigh with relief. This included Ye Shuang, who was continuously provoked, and even Fang Fei, who didn't need to invent reasons to talk to Ye Shuang but inevitably kept creating negative affection points for himself. Finally, it was also a relief for the film crew, their pity for Ye Shuang aside. A good relationship between the two protagonists could only be beneficial to their work. Therefore, several cameras were set up, and the screen test began with an order from the director. Ye Shuang looked up at the different camera placements before turning to contemplate the position of the windows and lights. The worker in charge of the splash assumed it was the sign of an anxious beginner, so he stepped forward to console Ye Shuang. "Don't worry, our manager has a good character. And since you two have never done this before, even if you don't get it right the first time, it's no big deal." Ye Shuang, who had finished building the simulation of the scene in his mind, smiled gently at the worker. "Thank you, I was just making some calculations." The worker had no idea what she was talking about, but since Ye Shuang didn't seem to want to explain it further, he nodded without asking for details. After making sure that both leads were ready, he hit the flapper and escaped the scene as quickly as possible. What happened next changed everyone's mind. It is common knowledge in the entertainment world that sometimes an actor has the qualities and skills, but for one reason or another fails to break through. Sometimes this is due to luck, but most of the time it's because he lacks photogenic skills. Photogenics is the substantive form of photogenics, the attractive appearance in a photograph. Those who were photogenic, even if they were not the main character, became the focus of the photograph, wherever they were. On the other hand, the actor without photogeny disappeared from the scene, no matter how long his text was. The actor would inexplicably blend into the background, especially if there was a photogenic actor in the same scene as him. If that actor had more lines or big action sequences than necessary, he ceased to be discreet and became ostensibly incongruous, as if he didn't belong, as if he shouldn't have stolen the scene from the main character, as if he ruined the overall image. Of course, it was very rare for someone working in the entertainment world to be so unphotogenic, but it was even rarer for someone to have such natural photogenics. Many professional actors gradually honed this instinct over a lifetime of work, an instinct that told them where to stand in front of the camera and how to react in a particular scene. That's why acting was considered a skill. It was a natural talent combined with the accumulation of experience. The director, who was sitting behind the camera, was impressed by Ye Shuang's performance. Even though filming had not officially begun, according to the video captured by the camera, Ye Shuang's performance was exceptionally catchy and fluid, as if he could involuntarily capture the camera's attention and refuse to let it go. At first, the director thought it was because of his physique, but upon closer inspection, he realized how precise Ye Shuang's pose, placement and angle were. Ignoring the rather awkward facial expression, one gets the impression that he is filming a masterful actor with decades of experience. In comparison, the female lead was clearly a fresh model. Standing next to Ye Shuang, she often disappeared into the background. God, he's good. Unable to suppress the excitement of finding a new treasure, the director called for the screen test to be stopped before ordering his reluctant assistant to teach the female lead some acting skills. He then approached Ye Shuang and asked, "Son, you've shot other commercials before, right?" Ye Shuang, who was accepting a bottle of mineral water from a female worker, gasped. Of course not. She had been locked inside an office since graduation. She hadn't even touched the edge of a stage before, much less acted in a production. So, how do you explain your position and where you are right now? The director became more excited. Ye Shuang thought before answering the director when the idea came to him. Are you talking about the golden ratio? Ha! To put it simply, If we consider that the angle that can be captured by the camera is equal to 1, then the angle of 0.618 is the most perfect place to catch the camera's attention. This is called the golden ratio. Of course, this is not all. You also have to take into account the line of separation between the shadow and the light, the speed of movement of the camera and... Ye Shuang explained all this seriously like an old director giving a master class. So, after calculating all these elements and setting up a 3D simulation, then you will be able to. After 10 minutes of class, the director staggered away. He was so stunned that he forgot to say a polite goodbye. The whole room of professionals was also stunned by Ye Shuang's knowledge. They now realized that Ye Shuang was more than just a pretty face, and they wanted to know where Director Fang had found this crazy person.